Good afternoon, everyone. Did you have a great lunch? Yes? Come on. Did you have a great lunch? That's more like it. We are honored today to have somebody that most of you know already, Mauricio Ramos, who has been extremely successful in the business, and now he's with Millicom. So I just wanted to start because a lot of people know professionally, what led him to here, but I want to know, why were you interested in this business and how did you get started? Because there's a lot of young people here that want to get started in the business and they don't know how.
So I usually tell this silly story about how I wanted to add just one more additional downside to my CV. I started out, I went to law school in Colombia. I did a dual degree in business and law. So I added being a lawyer as my first pedigree. Ended up working many, many years in Denver for some of the better groups out there building cable and fiber optics around the world, and just fell in love with the industry, fell in love with telecoms, fell in love with the finance of it, the consumer part of it, the technology of it, and ended up just becoming an advocate of deploying networks around Latin America. And when the opportunity came about to join Millicom a couple of years ago, I said, that's right down my alley, telecoms and LATAM.
It seems like you didn't go the traditional route because, as you said, you went to law school. Is that something that you would recommend to do again? Is that something that prepared you perhaps for this position?
I actually would encourage a lot of people to do business and law. And I would also encourage a lot of people to be investment bankers. It's the best way to go out there and be with the decision makers early on in your lives. I see a lot of kids not wanting to go down that route, and I encourage my nephews and kids to actually be a consultant, be an investment banker, because that's how you get to talk to the boards and the CEOs early on in life, and you get to basically learn from the very best.
You're Colombian,
Yep.
And you've represented companies in Chile, in Puerto Rico, and now 8 other countries, right?
Yep.
So how have you seen the industry change in the time that you've been involved with it?
This has been an amazing industry. The one thing, and I learned this from some of the masters of the industry, this industry, the telecom industry, the cable industry, the mobile industry, there's one thing about it. It will always reinvent itself. Just when you think it's got nothing for it, it comes around and finds a new avenue of growth. And we're going through it right now in the mobile business. People think the mobile business, the old voice business is dead, and surely voice is dead. But consumption of data on mobile is growing 20–30% every year. So this business is reinventing itself very quickly.
So tell us a little bit about Millicom and the industry that you're in now. You said you've talked about the changes in the past few years, but what exactly is Millicom for those who don't know?
Yeah, so as I said, for many years, I made my living building cable networks, fiber networks in Chile and Puerto Rico, and managing that business for a cable company that operates throughout the world, actually set up by entrepreneurs. I know that most around here are entrepreneurs. I've always been working with top-notch entrepreneurs, executives, being an executive for those entrepreneurs. So built cable for a long time, and I had always looked at Tigo, at Millicom, as a company that wanted to be at the forefront of things. Had been very successful at building a mobile voice business throughout Latin America and throughout Africa, and was right at the point in time where I thought it could reinvent itself. And that's what we started out doing over the last couple of years, is reinventing who Tigo is in our markets. So we're fastly living behind that mobile voice history of ours, that I'm sure many of you know Tigo in all the 8 countries we operate in Latin America for, and rapidly trying to become a broadband company, a high-speed data company, whether it's mobile or whether it's cable, simply because we think data is the business of today, the business of tomorrow. That's what we're all about, a company that operates in 8 countries in Latin America, 5 in Africa, and we're all about making Latin America digital, building broadband networks in every country we operate.
You talked about entrepreneurs. There are a lot of entrepreneurs here today. So my question is, Do you think that Latin America is really a fertile ground right now for those entrepreneurs in the new emerging markets in Latin America, that maybe they should get involved?
This is the reason we're doing this. I had this funny meeting earlier this year at a forum, and not unlike this. The Silicon Valley, very successful entrepreneur, went out of his way to set up a meeting with us. And I couldn't quite understand why he wanted to meet with me, with us. We're a networks company. We build high-speed data networks for mobile and for cable in all of our markets. So we're the Verizon or we're the Comcast. Why did he want to come talk to us? And his logic is right exactly what you're asking. He came and said, I believe that Silicon Valley does not have exclusive rights over entrepreneurship or talent. I believe talent exists in all of those markets, and I need to find a way to get to those individuals. I'll be happy to bridge them to the money, but I believe the ideas are as good there as they are in Silicon Valley. I think the entrepreneurial drive is as good there in El Salvador, in Guatemala, in Colombia, in Bolivia, as it is here. I need you to help me find them. And that was an eye-opener for us, because we realized that what we're doing is nothing other than building those digital highways that allow entrepreneurship in our markets to flourish as much as the residential services that we provide.
When you hire someone, what are the qualities that you look for? That you know that this is the right person for the job, that he or she is going to be successful?
Two things, actually. It's the combination of high ethical standards. I need to find someone that I know deep down in his or her heart means to do good for himself, his family, or her family, the company, and the communities we're all going to help develop. And that needs to come coupled with tremendous amounts of hunger. Just drive. You need to see those people that are going to wake up with you, pick up the phone if you call them at 7 in the morning, come up with ideas they thought of overnight. And that combination is the perfect combination. And that is what we dream to have as a management team and as a company. And it seems to be working, because I cannot help but be very proud that this year we made it into the top 20 great places to work among multinationals in Latin America. So we're proud of that. And I could not help
Why do you think that is? Why did you make it to that list?
I think it's the culture that we're coming together. Everyone in our operations, I really think they have that combination of knowing what our purpose is, knowing that we're helping develop our markets, and doing something personally for their own development. Everyone at Tigo knows that we're building the digital highways that help entrepreneurs grow and become part of a digital society. And everyone knows that we are very meritocratic, which is, I think, what entrepreneurship is all about. The beauty of entrepreneurship is that it allows those who have talent to grow personally and for the communities they operate in.
Is Miami a good place to start off, or do you recommend moving somewhere to Latin America?
I'll tell you a little story. So Millicom Tigo operates in, as I said earlier, 13 countries, 5 in Africa, 8 in Latin America. But it's a Luxembourg-based company that happens to trade in Sweden, because we have a lot of publicly traded shares, or we're actually publicly traded in Sweden. So that combination is not a very ordinary combination. So the board asked me when I was going to join as CEO, where are you going to base yourself? As if it were a question. And my obvious response was, well, what do you mean? Obviously Miami. 90% of what we do is in Latin America. Miami is the capital of Latin America. It's the obvious place for us to be based, and it is also the location where we're going to attract the most talent that wants to work in Latin America. And a conference like this is nothing other than testament to that. The fact that this is a place that's attracting a lot of entrepreneurial talent, a lot of executives, a lot of investors into Miami as the capital of Latin America. It's a little bit like the pivot between the US and Latin America, la bisagra.
So you obviously think that Miami is the gateway to Latin America. What is it about it? The location, the diversity? What is it about if you had to pinpoint?
Oh, it's the weather.
Well, the weather too.
You know, you fly in from wherever you're in on Friday afternoon, and you know, halfway through immigration, you're putting on your swimming trunks. Mm-hmm. I kid you not, that's an important element of this combination between, you know, Monday through Friday, being a hardworking executive and entrepreneur, and then having a good balance with your wife and family over the weekend. That is not a small amount of what this is. More seriously, you know, connectivity is great everywhere in Latin America. The talent pool in Miami is increasingly getting better and better. A lot of New York investors and New York bankers are coming to Miami to have conversations, not only with us, but with many other companies. So you just see this tremendous amount of momentum for Miami to become increasingly better and better at being the capital of the region. It's got the rule of law in the US, it's got the talent, it's got the languages. It's nowhere but going further.
You have said that this is a great opportunity and a great time for entrepreneurs to be positive disruptors, which is something that I thought to be a negative, and yet you say it's a positive.
Yeah, so I
as
think,
a disruptor.
Yeah, no, we use the word, you know, our job is to be agents of positive change and disruption everywhere we operate. So we ask our employees and we ask entrepreneurs out there to help us be positive agents of change. And let me explain what I mean by that. Everywhere we operate, we are one of the largest companies in that market, whether it's Guatemala or Bolivia or Paraguay. So we have a lot of responsibility. But we also have the largest mobile, and we're building the largest cable and fiber platform, network, digital networks, high-speed data networks. And we're also building the digital platforms on it. So everywhere we're asking entrepreneurs, app developers to come and be developers using our network of things that can be agents of positive change. And I'll give you one cute little example. We have this marvelous app which we've launched in Central America, particularly in Guatemala, and we're expanding it elsewhere, for people to present through an app to the authorities any indicio or knowledge they may have of corruption. So now corruption has an app on a mobile network that goes directly to Transparency International for them to investigate and act. What's our role? Our role is simply to be the connectivity, to be the network that allows that positive disruption to happen in that marketplace. That's one example.
What would you say, because we talked about how the industry has changed in the past years since you've been involved. How do you see it? Because it seems like on a daily basis, there's something new. So where do you see this industry in the next 5 years?
This is the way I see the world. This is the way we see the world at Tigo Millicom. And we just see unlimited, and by unlimited I mean unlimited demands for data. The hunger for data is unstoppable. I guarantee that no one in this room has less than 150 apps on their mobile phones. I'd be shocked if you have less than 150 apps. Just count them, and it'll be in the hundreds for sure. Consumption on mobile phones goes up 50% data every year. Same with your fat connection at home. So the name of the game is data consumption. Data is the game of today and is the game of the future. So we simplify our strategic view by simply saying, he who builds the fastest and fattest network wins. So it's got to be fast, but it's also got to be big. And that's where the combination of mobile and cable comes to be strategically important. And that's why we're neither a mobile cable company nor a mobile company only. We're both. Because for you as a consumer, the world will be one in which you want to have access to that data fast and a lot of it, anywhere you are, anytime. In order for you to be able to do that, I got to be your mobile provider. I got to be able to give you a fast 4G or 5G network. And I got to be able to move that use of data to my fixed network as soon as I possibly can. Because on the fixed network, I can carry a lot. On the mobile, I can carry a lot less, but faster. So the world is one of ubiquitous connectivity in which your data is handled by your telecom provider in an ubiquitous way wherever you are. And that's the importance of building a mobile network, high-speed data, with a fixed network, which we're doing everywhere we operate. We have probably one of the largest build programs in the region. We're building over 1 million homes with fiber cable on a yearly basis, simply so that the individual in El Salvador or in Paraguay or in Bolivia has access to that data just as you have it here in the US.
You talk about these different countries, and I imagine, you're in 8 countries now, Millicom, and there's a lot of idiosyncrasies that, that belong to each country that may be different. So how do you create an atmosphere that is good for all of the people in those 8 countries?
That's a really good question, because we like to think of ourselves as one, simply because we speak the same language. And there's a lot of things that are in common, and a lot of things that we don't really have in common. A few things that we do have in common, and I've already mentioned one, data, just everywhere. In Bolivia, for example, data penetration on mobile is only about 20%, and on fixed is only about 30%, and they want data. That's number one thing we have in common everywhere. Soccer is another thing we have in common, for sure. That is as common a language to us Latinos as Spanish. Maybe in Puerto Rico there's a little bit more baseball than in Venezuela, but I watched some of the eliminatorias the last few days, and Venezuela's doing pretty okay as well. So everywhere, yeah, we got some. So everywhere we operate, we're trying to use the ecosystem, the pay TV ecosystem, to create the local soccer federations. This is a tried model where the pay TV ecosystem of which we are a part and an important creator because we're building all this cable, we strike deals with the local federaciones de fútbol to create rights so that pay TV subscriptions funnel money into the federaciones that then go into the clubs that then go into the soccer players. Like it's been done in the UK, like it's been done in Spain, and that's how soccer was created into such a big sport, because the pay TV ecosystem was acting as a money channel into the soccer players through pay TV, subscribers, federaciones, clubes, players. We're doing this in Bolivia, we're doing this in Guatemala, we're doing this in El Salvador. We're creating this local pay TV ecosystem where you have on TV, on pay TV, the local soccer, because we have that in common. We have that in common. And we all want to see, I know Marcelo Claudio was here before, we all want to see one guy from El Salvador come and play in his team next year, or 5 years from today, or from Guatemala. The other thing we have in common is music. And the other thing that we launch, Tigo Soccer, or Tigo Sports, it's actually called, Tigo Money, we launch it in every market we operate, because that's another thing we have in common as Latinos, Tigo music. We just, everywhere, people dance to music, one way or another. So those are areas in which we, as a team and as a corporation, become one to our subscribers.
So this is the moment now to impart your knowledge and your wisdom to all the entrepreneurs here in the audience that are looking to you for a piece of advice, a key to success, something that they can really pin their future on. What would you say it is?
Never, ever do something that you would feel uncomfortable explaining to your kids. That's it. Because that is what I've learned makes the difference between doing what you really want to do in life, what is right, and we will ultimately make you a good leader. No one follows someone who is not pure in his or her heart. That's the first thing people look for, someone who is leading with good intentions. And that is perhaps a little different. That is the one thing that I think has made a difference, always being certain about what you want to do.
It is different because when you ask that question, most people say hard work, determination, focus, and you're saying never do anything that you would not want your kids to know.
And I mean making decisions about doing things that you don't feel are, what you want to do in life. How do you explain to your kid that you decided to be a soccer player when what you wanted to be was a business person? He or she will not understand it, right? They are the truest test of good intentions and motives. So if I had to choose one golden rule, it would be that one.
That's great. I love that. Good person inside out. We have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to open up the floor to a couple of questions. So make them good. Does anyone have a question for Mauricio? Yes, right here in the front. Favorite book? What is your favorite book?
Wow, that is an interesting one. You mean business or you mean literature?
Whatever inspired or helped you in general, what was your favorite book?
So business, there is a book called Trust by Stephen Covey, who is one of the renowned leader gurus. It's the one that I've always given to my teams, because in a corporation, there's nothing if there's no trust. Nothing. Your team doesn't follow you, your team does not believe in you, your team does not believe in each other if there's no trust. And one of the things you learn as you go further and further in the corporate world is that the CEO's job is largely, if not exclusively, about the culture. Having said that, I read very little business books. Like, rarely ever read any business books, because I think you could find a summary in the cover of the Harvard Business Review, and then you can pick one every year that you think is worth it. So the book that I like the most is by an Indian American writer called Jhumpa Lahiri, not very well known, and it's called The Namesake. And she actually writes a whole bunch of different books, and her theme is about immigration. And I'm going to guess a lot of us here are immigrants. I'm an immigrant. And her whole theme, not from a Latino point of view, but from an Indian point of view, is how the first generation immigrant never really settles where is home. My kids, second generation kids, they have it quite clear. But the first generation immigrant carries a little hole in his or her heart about where home is, always. And that was an idea that was very touching, because when I was living in Denver, it never felt quite like home, even though we had a home and we had kids and we had a professional life, but it was never the place where home was at. Maybe Miami is so close to Colombia and Latin America that this can be that. So that's a cool thought, cool book.
Another question? Yes. This is a more business-oriented question, so Mauricio.
So the question is, how do I and how does Millicom, Tigo, feel comfortable with investing in developing economies, high-risk economies, given that we, rightly so, deploy a lot of capital and we deploy it upfront for returns that only come in the long term? I only get that question from my board, like every other month, and from investors just about every quarter. The answer is the long term. The answer is to really believe, as we do, that in the long term, the economic drivers of our business will remain very stable in our economies. And what do I mean by that? The business of deploying cable, as we are, all throughout Latin America, and we're deploying a lot of cable. We're building over 5 million homes over the next few years in Latin America. And telecom networks, we're doubling the size of our 4G network every year in Latin America. So we're putting billions of dollars every year into networks. We can only get comfortable with that if we believe, as we believe, that the middle class over decades will continue to grow in Latin America. So we focus less on GDP growth and whether it's up or down every year. We think that in the long term, it will be up in Latin America. And the middle class, as it has for the last 40 years, will continue to increasingly be more and more and more. And as a result of that, demand for these services will continue to increase. The rest is risk management, capital allocation, balance sheet hedging. The rest is, tactics. The belief is at the core that, as I said earlier, we're building the digital highways that will make these economies and the rising classes in this economy have access to the digital economy of the 21st century. That's what we're doing, and that's what we believe in, and that's how we feel comfortable about it.
Okay, we have time for just one more question. Anybody out there? Oh, over there, yes.
1,000.
That's good. What's his greatest failure and what did he learn from it?
So do I have to answer honestly?
It's up to you.
When I was...
Where are his kids?
The kids. No, that's on the other side. Being a little too early, I learned... I was adamant in my prior professional life that one of the operations that I was overseeing needed to develop mobile services to go on top of what was a very successful cable business. I'm a cable guy, and I believe in fat pipes. I was adamant that we needed to build a mobile network on it. But I was perhaps a little too ambitious, a little too adamant, a little too quick, and I think we built it a little ahead of time. I think convergence has now been demonstrated to be the key to success in this business, but I was a little too early and a little too eager. So that was a major failure. And here's what I learned. The chairman of that company, who's been one of the most successful entrepreneurs, had himself failed a number of times. So over a Christmas dinner, when I came and almost apologized for what was to be the one thing that I hadn't done quite well, he was so cool and relaxed that all he said is, you needed a lesson, you will duke this one out, just keep at it. So what I learned is that everyone who's been very successful and is your senior has failed. And what they're really looking for is for you to own it. Really own it and just spend sleepless nights fixing it, as no doubt you will.
So definitely failure can be the catalyst for success, and you're a prime example of that.
Yeah, you just suffer through it quite a bit.
Right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a big round of applause. Mauricio Ramos. Thank you so much.